The Wishing Pebble. At the edge of a quiet lake in a town small enough to go unnoticed on most maps, a young boy named Leo wandered along the shoreline, kicking at the pebbles beneath his feet. The summer breeze carried the scent of fresh grass and the distant sound of birds calling across the water. Leo enjoyed these walks, especially on days when his thoughts felt too big for his small world. One afternoon, as he traced the water's edge, his foot nudged a smooth, round pebble, nearly the size of his palm. Something about it made him stop. It was the perfect shade of silver gray, polished by years of waves lapping over it. Unlike the others, it seemed to almost glow under the sunlight. He bent down, picked it up, and held it in his hands, turning it over with curiosity. A thought drifted into his mind, one he hadn't planned, but that seemed to settle naturally. What if this pebble could make wishes come true? It was a silly thought, but Leo had read enough books to know that strange and wonderful things often happened in the quietest of places. Smiling to himself, he closed his eyes and whispered, "I wish for a big adventure." Then, without hesitation, he tossed the pebble into the lake, watching as it disappeared beneath the rippling surface. He waited, expecting something. A gust of wind, a sparkle of light, perhaps even a sudden feeling of excitement in his chest. But nothing changed. The lake was the same, the sky was the same, and he was still just Leo. With a sigh, he turned and started home, deciding that perhaps it was just an ordinary pebble after all. The next morning, as he sat on his porch tying his shoelaces, his neighbor, Mrs. Anders, called out to him. She was an elderly woman who lived alone and spent most of her afternoons tending to her flower garden. "Leo, you'll never believe it. I was out in the yard early this morning, and a whole family of rabbits ran through my garden. Not a single flower trampled. They stopped right by my fence as if they were saying hello. It felt like a little adventure right in my own backyard. Isn't that funny?" Leo paused, blinking in surprise. A tiny thrill ran up his spine. A wish for an adventure, a small one, not his, but an adventure nonetheless. That afternoon he walked back to the lake, his feet moving a little faster than usual. He searched along the shore, scanning the pebbles, until there. Another smooth, round stone, just like the first. He picked it up, held it in his hands, and whispered, "I wish my dad would have a reason to laugh today." Then, with the same careful toss, he sent it into the lake. Later that evening, as his family sat around the dinner table, his father chuckled, really chuckled, for the first time in weeks. "You won't believe this," he said, shaking his head. "During my lunch break, a bird swooped down, grabbed my sandwich right off the table, and dropped it into my coworker's lap. We all just lost it. Haven't laughed that hard in ages." Leo barely touched his food. His heart was racing. It had happened again. The next day he returned to the lake, eager to test his newfound discovery. He made another wish, this time for his friend Max to find something special. The following morning, Max ran up to him at school, beaming. "Guess what? I found a 4-leaf clover in my backyard. Can you believe it? That has to be lucky, right?" One by one, the wishes continued, not for himself, but for others. A good day for his teacher, a little extra kindness for the grumpy shopkeeper, a reason for his sister to smile. Each wish was small, yet each one unfolded in its own quiet way. Days turned into weeks, and the pebbles continued to disappear beneath the lake's surface, carrying whispered hopes with them. But one afternoon, as Leo searched the shoreline for his next wishing pebble, he paused. He had granted so many small moments of happiness to others, yet he had never once wished for himself. Not since that very first day. He picked up a pebble, turning it in his fingers. He thought about all the joy that had spread from such simple things, how good it had felt to see those around him smiling, laughing, and discovering tiny wonders. With a quiet smile, he whispered his final wish. I wish for this feeling to last. Then, as always, he tossed the pebble into the lake, watching as the ripples stretched out, endless and wide. The end.